Chapter 6. A Good Night's Work. About 4 hours later, Tyrion flung himself into one of the bunks to snatch a little sleep. The two children were already snoring. He had made them go to bed before he did because they would have to be up most of the night, and he knew that at their age they couldn't do that without sleep first. Also, he had tired them out. First, he had given Jill some practice at archery, and found that, though not quite up to Narnian standards, she was really not that bad. Indeed, she had succeeded in shooting a rabbit, not a talking rabbit, of course. There are lots of the ordinary kind about in Western Narnia. And it was already skinned, cleaned, and hanging up. He had found that both the children knew all about this chilly and smelly job, and had learned that kind of thing on their great journey through the giant land in the days of Prince Rilian. That he had tried to teach Eustace how to use his sword and shield. Eustace had learned quite a bit about sword fighting on his earlier adventures, but that had all been with a straight Narnian sword. He had never handled a curved Caelermene scimitar, and that made it hard, for many of the strokes are quite different. Some of the habits he had learned with a longsword now had to be unlearned again. But Tyrion had found that he had a good eye, and was quick on his feet. He was surprised at the strength of both children. In fact, they both seemed to already be much stronger and bigger and more grown up than they had been when he first met them a few hours ago. It is one of the effects which Narnian air often has on visitors from our world. All three of them agreed that the very first thing they must do was to go back to the stable and try to rescue Jewel the unicorn. After that, if they succeeded, they would try to get away eastward and meet the little army which Rune with the Centaur would be bringing from Cair Paravel. An experienced warrior and huntsman like Tyrion can always wake up at the time he wants. So he gave himself till 9 o'clock that night, then put all worries out of his head and fell asleep at once. It seemed only a moment later that he woke and knew by the light, the very feel of things, he had timed his sleep exactly. He got up, put on his helmet and turban, he had slept in the mail shirt, and then shook the other two till they woke up. They looked, to tell the truth, very grey and dismal as they climbed out of their bunks, and there was a good deal of yawning. "Now," said Tyrion, "we must go due north from here. By good fortune 'tis a starry night, and it will be much shorter than our journey this morning, for then we went round about. But now we shall go straight. If we are challenged, then do you two hold your peace, and I will do my best to talk like a cursed, cruel, proud lord of Caelermen. If I draw my sword, and then thou, Eustace, must do likewise, and let Jill leap behind us and stand with an arrow on the string. But if I cry home, then fly for the tower, both of you, and let none try to fight on, not even one stroke, after I have given the retreat. Such false valor has spoiled many notable plans in the wars. And now, friends, in the name of Aslan, let us go forward." Out they went into the cold night. All the great northern stars were burning above the treetops. The North Star of that world is called the Spearhead. It is brighter than our pole star. For a time they could go straight towards the spearhead, but presently they came to a dense thicket, so they had to go out of their course to get round it. After that, for they were still overshadowed by branches, it was hard to pick up their bearings. It was Jill who set them right again, and she had been an excellent guide in England. And of course she knew her Narnian stars perfectly, having traveled so much in the wild northern lands, and could work out the direction from one of the other stars even when the spearhead was hidden. As soon as Tyrion saw that she was the best pathfinder of the three of them, he put her in front. And then he was astonished to find how silently, almost invisibly, she glided on before them. "By the main," he whispered to Eustace, "this girl is a wondrous wood maid. If she had Dryad's blood in her, she could scarce do better." "She's so small. That's what helps," whispered Eustace. But Jill, in front of them, said, "Shh, less noise." All round them the wood was very quiet. Indeed, it was far too quiet. On an ordinary Narnian night there ought to have been noises. An occasional cheery "good night" from a hedgehog, the cry of an owl overhead. Perhaps a flute in the distance to tell the fauns of dancing, or some throbbing, hammering noises from dwarfs underground. All that was silenced. Gloom and fear reigned over Narnia. After a time they began to go steeply uphill, and the trees grew further apart. Tyrion could dimly make out the well-known hilltop in the stable. Jill was now going with more and more caution. She kept making signs to the others with her hands to do the same. Then she stopped dead still, and Tyrion saw her gradually sink down to the grass, disappear without a sound. A moment later, she rose again, put her mouth close to Tyrion's ear, and said in the lowest possible whisper, "Get down, thee better." She said "thee" for "see," not because she had a lisp, but because she knew that the hissing letter S is the part of a whisper most likely to be overheard. Tyrion at once lay down, almost as silently as Jill, but not quite, for he was heavier and older. And once they were down, he saw from how that position you could see the edge of the hill sharp against the star-strewn sky. Two black shapes rose against it. One was the stable, and the other, a few feet in front of it, was a Caelermene sentry. He was keeping very ill watch, not walking or even standing, but sitting, with a spear over his shoulder and his chin on his chest. "Well done," Tyrion said to Jill. She had showed him exactly what he needed to know. They got up, and Tyrion now took the lead. Very slowly, hardly daring to breathe, they made their way up the little clump of trees which was not more than 40 feet away from the sentinel. "Wait here till I come again," he whispered to the two. "If I miscarry, fly." And he sauntered over boldly in full view of the enemy. The man started when he saw him, and he was just going to jump to his feet. He was afraid Tyrion might be one of his own officers, and that he would get into trouble for sitting down. But before he could get up, Tyrion had dropped on one knee beside him, saying, "Art thou a warrior of the Tisrock? May he live forever? It cheers my heart to meet thee among these beasts and devils of the Narnians. Give me thy hand, friend." And before he knew what was happening, the Caelermene sentry found his right hand seized in a mighty grip. Next instant, someone was kneeling on his legs, and a dagger was pressed against his neck. "One noise, and thou art dead," said Tyrion. "Tell me where the unicorn is, and thou shalt live." "Behind the stable, O my master," stammered the unfortunate man. "Good. Rise up, and lead me to him." As the man got up, the point of the dagger never left his neck. It only traveled round, cold and rather ticklish, as Tyrion got behind him and settled it at a convenient place under his ear. Tremblingly, he went round to the back of the stable. Though it was dark, Tyrion could see the white shape of Jewel at once. "Hush," he said. "No, do not neigh. Yes, Jewel. It is I." "How have they tied thee?" "Hobbled by all 4 legs, and tied with a bridle to a ring in the stable wall," came Jewel's voice. "Stand here, sentry, with your back to the wall. So. Now, Jewel, set the point of your horn against this Caelermene's breast." "With a good will, sire," said Jewel. "If he moves, rive him to the heart." Then in a few seconds Tyrion had cut the ropes. With the remains of them he bound the sentry hand and foot. Finally he made him open his mouth and stuffed it full of grass, and tied him up from scalp to chin so he could make no noise, lowered the man into a sitting position, and set him up against the wall. "I have done thee some discourtesy, soldier," said Tyrion, "but such was my need. If we meet again, I may happen to do thee a better turn. Now, Jewel, let us go softly." He put his left arm around the beast's neck and bent over and kissed his nose, and both had great joy. They went back as quietly as possible to the place where he had left the children. It was darker in there under the trees, and he nearly ran into Eustace before he saw him. "All's well," whispered Tyrion. "A good night's work. Now for home." They turned and gone a few paces when Eustace said, "Where are you, Pole?" There was no answer. "Is Jill on the other side of you, sire?" he asked. "What?" said Tyrion. "Is she not on the other side of you?" It was a terrible moment. They dared not shout, but they whispered her name in the loudest whisper they could manage. There was no reply. "Did she go from you while I was away?" asked Tyrion. I didn't see her here or hear her go, said Eustace. But she could have gone without my knowing. She can be as quiet as a cat. You've seen it yourself. At that moment, a far-off drumbeat was heard. Jewel moved his ears forward. Dwarves, he said. And treacherous dwarves. Enemies as likely as not, muttered Tyrion. And here comes something. Something on hooves. Much nearer, said Jewel. The two humans and the unicorn stood dead still. There were now so many different things to worry about, they didn't know what to do. The noise of the hooves came steadily nearer. And then, quite close to them, a voice whispered, "Hello? Are you still there?" Oh, thank heaven, it was Jill. "Where the devil have you been to?" said Eustace in a furious whisper, for he'd been very frightened. "In the stable," gasped Jill. It was the sort of gasp you give when you're struggling to suppress laughter. "Oh," growled Eustace, "you think it's funny, do you? Well, all I can say is, have you got Jewel, sire?" asked Jill. "Yes, here he is." "What is that beast with you?" "That's him," said Jill. "But let's be off home before anyone wakes up." And again, there came little explosions of laughter. The others obeyed at once, for they'd already lingered long enough in that dangerous place, and the dwarf drum seemed to have gotten a little nearer. It was only after they had been walking southward for several minutes that Eustace said, "Got him? What do you mean?" "The false Aslan," said Jill. "What?" said Tyrion. "Where have you been? What have you done?" "Well, sire," said Jill, "as soon as I saw that you'd got that sentry out of the way, I thought, hadn't I better look inside that stable and see what's really there? So I crawled along. It's easy as anything to draw back the bolt. Of course, it was pitch black inside and smelled like any other stable. I struck a light and, would you believe it, there was nothing at all in there but this old donkey with a bundle of lion skins tied on his back. So I drew my knife and told him he'd have to come with me. As a matter of fact, I needn't have threatened him with a knife at all. He was very fed up with the stable and quite ready to come. Weren't you, Puzzle dear?" "Great Scott!" said Eustace. "Well, I'm jiggered. I was jolly angry with you a moment ago, and I still think it was mean of you to sneak off without the rest of us, but I must admit, I mean to say, it was a perfectly gorgeous thing to do. If she were a boy, she'd have to be knighted, wouldn't she, sire?" "If she were a boy," said Tyrion, "she would be whipped for disobeying orders. And in the dark, no one could see whether he said this with a frown or a smile. Next minute, there's a sound of rasping metal. "What are you doing, sire?" asked Jewel sharply. "Sharpening my sword to smite off the head of that accursed ass," said Tyrion in a terrible voice. "Stand clear, girl!" "Oh, no, please don't," said Jill. "Really, you mustn't. It wasn't his fault. It was all the ape. He didn't know any better. He's very sorry. He's a nice donkey. His name is Puzzle, and I've got my arms around his neck." "Jill," said Tyrion, "you are the bravest and most woodwise of all my subjects, but also the most malapert and disobedient. Well, let the ass live. What have you to say for yourself, ass?" "Me, sire?" came the donkey's voice. "Oh, I'm sure I'm very sorry if I've done wrong. The ape said Aslan wanted me to dress up like that. I thought he'd know. I'm not clever like him. I only did what I was told. It wasn't any fun for me living in that stable. I don't even know what's been going on outside. He never let me out, except for a minute or two at night. Some days they forgot to give me water, too." "Sire," said Jewel, "those dwarves are coming nearer and nearer. Do you want to meet them?" Tyrion thought for a moment and then suddenly gave a great laugh out loud. Then he spoke, not this time in a whisper. "By the lion," he said, I am growing slow-witted. Meet them? Certainly we will meet them. We will meet anyone now. We have this ass to show them. Let them see this thing they have feared and bowed to. We can show them the truth of the ape's vile plot. His secret is out. The tide's turned. Tomorrow we shall hang that ape on the highest tree in Narnia. No more whimpering and skulking in disguises. Where are those honest dwarfs? We have good news for them. When you've been whispering for hours, and the mere sound of anyone talking out loud has a wonderfully stirring effect. The whole party began talking and laughing, and even Puzzle lifted up his head and gave a grand ho 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 hee hee haw, the thing that Ape hadn't allowed him to do for days. Then they set off in the direction of the drumming. It grew steadily louder, and soon they could see torchlight as well. They came out on one of those rough roads, we should hardly call them roads at all in England, which ran through Lantern Waste. And there, marching steadily along, were about 30 dwarves, all with their little spades and mattocks over their shoulders. 2 armed Calermans led the column, and 2 more brought up the rear. "Stay!" thundered Tyrion as he stepped out on the road. "Stay, soldiers! Whither do you lead these Narnian dwarves, and by whose orders?" And that's the end of chapter 6. And could this be it? Just like that? Bam! With a little stealth, a little cunning. Not only was Jewel rescued, which was really the only plan, but man, Jill kind of pulled a fast one on everyone. And maybe she saved the day just like that. She snuck into this table. She's able to bring out Puzzle. And now there is no more false Aslan for the ape to say is making all of these rules. The very next time they're found, all they have to do is say, "Look and see, it's not the real Aslan." But you know what? We're only about halfway through the book. I've got a sinking feeling. Maybe it's not quite going to be as easy as that. Whatever does come next, well, at least they've rescued poor old Puzzle. He may have been used for great harm, but that seems to be against his will and nothing he would have chosen. So at least some good has come from this particular night. Hopefully it is the good they are hoping for, and that the tide has indeed turned.